What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Just Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Gabe here. Alongside me, as always, buddy Cole Graham. Cole, how you doing, brother?
I am doing great today. I'm feeling much better knowing that I actually have a co-host today rather than doing it by myself.
I know. If you guys watched the episode last week, you guys saw it was Cole by himself. It's because I didn't want to be in the episode.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. No, I was actually feeling a little under the weather, as most people are these days, because it is the winter time, but throat was not feeling too hot, so I wasn't speaking or couldn't have a good voice for the podcast.
Yeah, but now you're back and you actually have a great topic for us today, don't you?
Yeah, so today's topic is kind of a big one. I think this is a topic that a lot of people can really relate to, and it is about getting rid of the toxic people in your life, or actually getting rid of the toxic relationships, because they really do have a negative effect on your life. And I think you and I, Cole, both can speak to different types of relationships that have affected us negatively and how we kind of didn't realize at the time that it was toxic, but now in hindsight, post that relationship or whatever it is, we kind of see how it was toxic in a way, you know?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is probably most people have experienced toxic relationships in their life. If not, they still are experiencing toxic relationships in their life. And it's such a bad thing because it doesn't just drain you mentally, it drains you physically. Because when you feel that, hey, this weight of dealing with this person, or the weight of dealing with this person arguing with me over and over and over and over again, just it brings you down. And like Gabe said, we have both experienced this on our own and together as well. Like, not saying our relationship is toxic or anything like that, but you're going to have disagreements with people as well, which obviously that's not quite the toxic relationships we're referring to in today's episode, but you're going to come across roadblocks with pretty much whoever you talk to. And the important thing is determining, okay, is this just a disagreement, or is this person being toxic in my life?
Yeah, I think that's a hard thing to distinguish, because most people get lost in the translation of like the toxicity of the situation, and then it actually being like, oh, this is just a disagreement, like we can get past this. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people don't really understand or see the signs of a toxic relationship because it goes under the radar when it comes to like, hey, oh, this is like kind of like a red flag, as I say, like it's a big thing that you should realize, but people end up not realizing it until, not that it's ever too late, but sometimes it gets to a point where it's like, whoa, you got to step back and take a beat, because the relationship, or whatever it is, it could be friendship, relationship with a significant other, a boss, whoever it is. If you see that it's toxic, some people don't understand or see that it is actually toxic,
Yeah. And like Gabe mentioned, we have experienced the toxic relationships in our life. And the unfortunate thing is I have experienced it and I've waited too long to do anything about it. And it's like you said, it's very hard to notice, because some of these people that are being toxic to you could be your best friends. And the hard part is, if you do notice that, hey, this person's being toxic in my life, the hard part is cutting that person off. Because I've had to deal with friends that I thought were my best friends and I treated them like my best friends, where all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I don't like how I'm being treated by these people. Like, constantly being disrespected, even if it's on accident, as they might try and argue, you just feel it in your soul that, hey, I'm putting too much into this relationship and they're not. And that's not a good place to be.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I think sometimes you'll see there's relationships with, like, for example, like friendships, right? Where one person is really trying to like hang out with the other person, try to go to like get some dinner or hang out, and the other person is like pushing them off, or they'll say like, yeah, I'm gonna hang out, and then they just bail every time. Or you're trying to hang out with them and they're just like making up excuse after excuse. Or worst of all, and I hope you guys don't do this, is they talk badly behind your back, like they are gossiping and putting out rumors or putting out like a negative feel to your name and who you are as a person, and they are like being nice to your face. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think those type of people are seriously toxic.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously been people in my life that's happened with me, where all of a sudden I hear like through the grapevine that, yeah, this person was talking about you, or, oh, these people went on a trip and you weren't invited. And, these people are supposed to be your friends. These people are supposed to be with you, ride or die. They have your back no matter what. And it's sometimes the people that you least expect to stab you in the back that do stab you in the back.
Yeah, and I remember when I was in high school, my sophomore year, I had a friend, or who I thought was a friend, on our soccer team who, was super nice to me when we were at practice and at games, and we would see each other during the day at school. But it turns out that he was like making fun of me and talking behind my back and saying all these things about me, and, was just being a fake friend, and I didn't realize it at the time because I was like, oh, this person's cool. Like, he's talking to me, we're hanging out. And then I had a friend of a friend come up to me like, hey man, he's saying all this stuff about you, like all this mean stuff, all this negative stuff. And I was like, I confronted him about it, and he was like, oh no, I don't say those things. So, ultimately we ended up not being friends or anything, but it's just sad to see that people are like that. And they like, not that they take advantage of you, but you think that they are this person, and then behind, closed doors, it's like they're a whole nother person, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. And like I said, the hardest part is cutting that person off, but cutting off the toxic people in your life is very important for your own well-being. And it's a very hard thing to do, but I've done it and I feel a lot better because of it, because I feel a weight lifted off my shoulders knowing that I'm not going to allow this person to affect my life any more than they already have. Because if you're just going to allow them to keep doing this and keep getting away with it, at some point you have to take control of that. And like I said, it's easier said than done, but like we've mentioned in our social media episode, I unfollowed probably 200 people. Granted, most of them I didn't know, and there wasn't like a toxic relationship with them. It was just mainly because there's no need to have a relationship online, but not in person. And I feel the same way with like regular friends. If you are friends, why aren't you hanging out together? If someone asks you, hey, you want to go to the movies? Why not? Like, obviously, if you're busy, you're busy. Like, okay, I have work, I have baseball, I have whatever. But let's schedule it for another time. If you ask someone, hey, you want to do this? No. Hey, you want to do this? Oh, next time. And there never is a next time. And they never reach out to you and say, hey, I know you asked last time, but I'd love to take you out to dinner. Like, let's go get some food. Let's go get Cane's. Like, that's what a friend should be doing. And if you haven't noticed your friends reciprocating the same amount of love and respect to you, then yeah, maybe there wasn't like a big fight. Maybe there was not even a little one, but allowing them to get away with things like that is just hurtful to you.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. I think going back to where you're saying about like cutting off the toxic people, I'm going to be honest with you guys, it's hard. Like, it's not easy. As you're saying, it's easier said than done, because say you do have a friendship or, a relationship with someone or whoever it is that's been going on for so long, and you're like, hey, I can't do this anymore, right? It's like, you've been treating me this way. This is just not cool, right? And I know you guys probably have relationships like that, but the hardest thing is like saying, hey, this can't happen anymore. We got to go, our separate ways or whatever, because ultimately it is for the better, because, they learn a lesson. You obviously get rid of a toxic person, but building up the courage is super hard, because you're like, well, I don't want to hurt this person's feelings, and I don't want to make them feel upset, or whatever it is. But in the end, it's kind of like a win-win for everybody, because yes, you lose a friend, but then you gain, all this experience and what a toxic person is, and you're out of their lives. And then they learn that, hey, I can't treat people this way. There's actually science backed this theory of like why, people actually feel so stressed in toxic situations. Like it's actually like based off because your mind is so in like a state of like fight or flight that you just every day you're just stressed, you're stressed. But when you get out of that situation, you actually feel like a whole lot better. Like it feels like there's literally a weight lifted off your shoulders, because you're actually being able to, be treated properly, obviously, right? At the end of the day, it's like you want to be treated like an equal.
Yeah, like the saying goes, treat others as you want to be treated. And to go back to your point of not wanting to approach the people that are being toxic to you because you're afraid to hurt their feelings, I'm just going to recommend that you go ahead and do it. Because yeah, it's going to suck to hurt someone's feelings, but if you really think about it, the reason why you're going up to them in the first place is because they hurt you. They may not have been trying to do that, but they did. And yes, it's hard to rip that Band-Aid off, especially because some of these people could be lifelong friends. Like, I've done that before. I've had to rip the Band-Aid off with some people because, like you said, it's a lesson for everybody. There's only so much that you as yourself can take. And sometimes if they don't even know that you're being affected by what they're doing, they're never going to change. So unless you outright come out and say, hey, look, I don't like the way I'm being treated. I don't think that this is really working for us. I'd love to be your friend still. Let's work on something. I'm not saying you have to just go straight up to them and say, hey, we're not friends anymore. I'm not saying just cut them off, unfollow them, never talk to them again, block their number. I'm not saying do that. In extreme circumstances, you should, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
But in most situations, you could probably get away with just saying like, hey, look, this isn't working. I felt this way for a long time. We just need to work on some things and move past this.
Yeah.
And if they really are your friend, then they're going to love and respect you for approaching them with that, because then now they can work on something that hopefully betters your friendship and gets rid of the toxic negativity.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, this kind of goes to show, like, if you really do want to stay friends or you want to keep that relationship, if they care about it, and you, obviously, they will start changing their ways. Like, they'll be like, hey, I see what you're saying. I don't want to be like this. Like, they'll start to actually take action in their, you know, what you said to them, because maybe it means something to them, that friendship that you guys have had for so long. But on the flip side, you guys probably know this as well, is that sometimes people don't care. Like, sometimes people are like, hey, I don't care what you're saying. If that's what you think, man, that's okay. And then they leave and you're like, okay, that's fine too. Like, there's also another side to it where people just don't care. And it's a bummer because obviously you want to be friends with them. But if they don't care about, you know, what you're saying and they don't want to work on it, then, I mean, that's a whole nother thing as well. And that's kind of like closure for that friendship, I guess, right?
Yeah, because if they choose to not want to work on things, then that's a perfect out for the relationship, because then at that point, you've done all you can do. You've held up your end of the bargain by trying to be friends with them still. You put up with them and you offered them like, hey, I'm giving you a one-time chance, take it or leave it, to still be friends with me. You just have to work on yourself. And that's not to say that you don't have to look internally and think, hey, maybe I could be doing something wrong too, because sometimes you could be doing something wrong that's leading them to act a certain way. That obviously doesn't give them any right to act that way towards you, but you still should be aware of how you're acting. And if it's causing any issues with them, then you can clean up whatever you're doing as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's a lot of life lessons when you're dealing with toxic people. And it's sad that, you know, there are these people out there, but it's also like a learning lesson for a lot of people. Like, you learn how to deal with these toxic relationships. And sometimes there are people that are like, hey, I have no idea this person's toxic. And then, you know, for example, they see this podcast, they see this on YouTube and they're like, oh, snap, this person is like, you know, this person isn't the best, you know, for my life, or this is a situation where it's like super, super hard. I got to get out of it. So it's like, you know, some people don't realize the impact that toxic people have in their lives, you know?
Yeah. If you guys have an oh snap moment, like Gabe just said right there, you guys got to come and comment on this video.
You do. Yes. And I think also, you know, besides your oh snap moment, which may be coming, you don't know when, but, you know, if I were to give you viewers and you listeners just a quick thing of advice, obviously this whole thing has been advice, but to kind of wrap it up here, I would say if you are in a toxic relationship and you are trying to get out of it and you're realizing it, you know, just now, as you say, that oh snap moment, you know, you have all the power to do it. And it may be hard and it's going to be difficult and it's going to be tough, but you have to realize there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a better side. And as Kole was saying, like, it's either going to be that you guys are going to work on that relationship, or they're going to go their way, you're going to go your way, and it's going to be, but, you know, by the end of it, it's going to be awesome either way, you know?
Yeah, like Gabe said, either way, the relationship's going to be better because it's either going to end or it's going to be healthier than it was before. And yes, saying the relationship's going to end doesn't necessarily sound like the relationship's going to be better, but it will be, because instead of being in a toxic relationship, you no longer have a relationship with them. So in my eyes, that's better.
Yeah.
And like Gabe said, yes, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can do it. And obviously, if you guys need any support, go and listen on some of our other episodes, because we've kind of maybe not talked about this exactly, but there's a lot of episodes that we've done now that have talked about supporting others and being there for others. And if you need someone to be there for you in a time of need like this, like, hey, I'm cutting off a few friends that have been treating me poorly for a long time, reach out to the people who you know are actually there for you and are gonna be there and support you through no matter what you do.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to leave it. But before we get out of here, just a couple quick announcements, guys. If you could follow us and subscribe on our YouTube channel, that's at Just Thoughts Podcast. That's at Just Thoughts Podcast. And if you could follow us on our TikTok and Instagram at Just Thoughts Pod, that's at Just Thoughts POD. And wherever you listen to this podcast, whether it's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a comment, review, and make sure to turn on those notifications for the next episode. And we'll see you guys later.
We love you guys. See ya.
Boom.
We love you guys.
Deuces.
You guys, we love you.